Welcome back for part 2 of what's my favorite gold for paint and water. So for this one, I have Golden, Utrecht, Pebeo, and Creative Inspirations. Now, I know that Creative Inspirations is pretty cell reactive, but I'm going to be testing out the rest of these. I use Creative Inspirations quite often. I'll get you down and show you my worksheets. If you haven't watched part 1, I explain a lot more at the beginning of part 1, but if you're just tuning in now, I am basically testing out a bunch of different golds, 12 to be exact, mixing them with just paint and water to see how they react with Amsterdam brand that I use, and also to see what type of gold they are, if it's pretty, if it's worth the money, if there's any cracking or breaking because I'm just mixing with water. So this is really an experiment video. I'm trying to hold everything else consistent, so I'm using the same paints, the same, brands that I used in the last ones. And then in the next part, I'll be doing 4 more. And then I think I'll do either in the end of that part or as another video, kind of a wrap up and how I mitigate some of these things, how I alter getting the amount of cells that I want. So in the first video, I did Blick, Amsterdam, I did Tri-Art, and I did Liquitex Basics. So now we're on to the next set, and I will get you down on the worksheets so I can show you kind of what I found so far. All right, so here is my consistency test again for this one. So if it 1, 2, 3, 4, if it goes down past this line, in between these 2 lines here, then it's good. So the Golden and the Creative Inspirations are a tiny bit thin. These are all exact same consistency, but this is my margin of error, so I am good with this consistency. Here is my sheet on it. So you can see here the colors. And I put them over the black lines so that you could kind of see the opaqueness or transparency. So the Golden says that it is, let me see, the Golden says that it's semi-transparent, but it is pretty opaque. The Creative Inspirations does not say, but it looks semi-opaque. The Pebeo also looks pretty semi-opaque, and the Utrecht says that it is transparent, but it is definitely semi-opaque to opaque. Cost-wise, Golden is always expensive. For 2 ounces, it's $15. It's about $1 something per ounce of Creative Inspirations. They're always pretty cheap for cost. Pebeo is $4 per 3.5 ounces, and it's $9 per 2 ounces of the Utrecht. So not too shabby here. Tri-Art's been the most expensive per ounce thus far, but Golden comes in a close second. Here are my recipes if y'all want to see. So 21 grams of water for Golden. I will say this was creamier and easier to incorporate than Golden Titanium White. So it's just very interesting to me. I normally need more water to get Golden the same consistency. Pebeo was 40 grams of water. The Utrecht, I squeezed out too much and couldn't get it back in the tube. So this has a lot more grams of paint, but it actually didn't take that much water to get the same consistency. And then 30 grams of paint and 32 grams of water for the Creative Inspirations. This was a little bit harder. I also have on there whether they were easy to incorporate or hard to incorporate. If you're mixing with just paint and water, which you can mix with other mediums as well, and as we get to that final video, I'll tell you a little bit more about how you can mitigate some of that. Sometimes I mix brands together or I mix in a little bit of a binder, but for the most part, all of these were relatively okay to incorporate, but I like to start. If I know that I'm going to need 32 grams of water, I'll start with 15 and then add the other 17. So I'll make like a little slurry first so that it's much easier to incorporate. But even doing that, the Creative Inspirations is a little bit hard sometimes to do. And surprisingly, the Golden was very easy this time. But all right, there you go. You can screenshot if you want. These are just my little notes on it. And then we'll come back to these notes at the end as they dry and what I actually thought about them. And we'll go over that at the end of the video as well. But for now, I'm going to get back on the canvas and get started. I forgot, I did want to show you as well the bottles of each of them. So this is Creative Inspirations. It really doesn't have much info on the label itself. So nothing about transparency, nothing about light fastness, really nothing. This is golden. Oh, let me turn you this way. Let me see if I can get you in on this. So iridescent, bright gold, fine. You can see semi-transparent there. There's the back if you want to read it. Then I've got Utrecht, permanent gold. And then on the back, it tells you that it's transparent. But honestly, this one seems pretty opaque to me. Last one is Pebeo. They're high viscosity. These are student acrylics. It does say metallic on here. I wonder, oh, I was like, oh, maybe that's where the opaque is. No, it was just my paint that dried on there. So there you have it. This took me so long coming up with the concept of how I wanted to get you this information, how I wanted to test it out myself, mixing all the paints and getting them the right consistency. I started this morning at 7 and it's like 3 in the afternoon before I actually got to painting. So, oh, all right. All in the name of science, right? Or at least experimentation. All right, so I'm gonna pour down a good base of paint for each of them. And then I'm going to blow these out, and then I'm going to layer these the exact same way as part 1. So make sure you do check that out, but it's going to be, I'm using all Amsterdam paints. So titanium white, phthalo blue, and turquoise green. And then the only thing I'm altering, and the base, the black is Oxide Black by Amsterdam. And the only thing I'm altering is the gold in each one. So let's go. All right, I have layered out the base, and now it is time to pour the colors. So I'm starting a little bit offset with each one, some turquoise. I'm trying to do them pretty similar to the other one. Woo! Okay, that did good. Then the phthalo blue. Next, I did gold next. Now, the first thing I'm looking for is, does this sink down through the colors or does it sit on top? So that's golden. This is Utrecht. The Amsterdam gold sank down. This one's sinking a little bit too. Pebeo sitting on top. This one has lots of air bubbles. And then my Creative Inspirations sitting on top. Let me pop. Okay, so the Utrecht definitely sank down through. So here is my titanium white, just adding a little bit on through there. I find that adding a little bit of titanium white over top of the metallic kind of activates it a little bit, at least with the mixture that I use. So I wanted to keep that consistent to see how these golds would react. Okay, there we go. One more little torch. Gosh, that golden is so pretty. All right, let's blow these out. super duper interesting on this one. Okay, I don't love my composition here, so I will change that. But man, oh man, the Pebeo exploded in cells. I knew that the creative inspiration was going to explode in cells. I thought that the golden also would, because in my swipe technique course, I tested out golden as the swipe catalyst with instead of Amsterdam titanium white, and that worked. So I thought that this was going to be much more cell reactive than it was. The Utrecht has a weird vibe to it. I feel like this one is not going to dry as well. It definitely reacted with a little bit more of the phthalo blue, but the gold itself got lost. The gold in Pebeo, I can already see a little bit of cracking and breaking. I'm using them synonymously, but when I get down on it and show you, I'll show you what I mean. But I want to see how it's going to dry. I don't use Pebeo as often. I've had it sitting on my shelf because I've been wanting to do this for over a year now, and it always just gets pushed to the side. So Creative Inspirations alone, lots of cells, but I can also see that this one probably isn't going to dry that great. So super cell reactive, but not going to dry that great. This one I'm interested to see how it's going to dry. Okay, all of these are good. I am just going to change the composition of this one a little bit on the other side, and then I will take you in for details, and then we'll see how they dry. Look at those gorgeous cells. But let me see if I can get to a place. Okay, so like right there, I've already got a little bit of separation in this area. Ooh, right there. You can see the black coming through. Over here, you can see the black coming through. So that's what I mean by like that. It's not really cracking and breaking. It's really like a separation of paint. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. Over here, this is the creative inspiration. So that was Pebeo. This is Pebeo. Really, this is what I mean when I say cell reactive. This is not cell reactive. This is cell reactive. Okay, so I can see it starting a little bit in there, a little bit up there. I know that this happens with creative inspirations. And so I normally add a paint that it doesn't happen to along with it. I'll explain all of that a little bit later. Super pretty though. I wonder how this gold is going to shine when it dries. This one is interesting. The gold did not show up as much. I definitely got a reaction of the phthalo blue, but not too much else. So I will be interested to see how this one dries. That's the Utrecht. And then there's my golden. Not much going on there, except the gold is a really beautiful gold. So just like I did in the other video, I'll show you the golds, and I would highly recommend you go watch that. Okay, so golden, creative inspirations, Pebeo, Utrecht. Golden is such a rich, gorgeous gold. It's just so pretty. Super rich. The Creative Inspirations is one of my favorite golds to use, just not because it's cell reactive, but it shines so bright when it dries. So I'll be able to show you that. Pebeo, we're going to see. The color's not too bad. It's a little bit antique-y. And the Utrecht is a little bit like just kind of bland. It's a little bit light. But we'll see how these dry and how they shine. All right. Gosh, this has been a fun experiment. Okay, so part 2. So this is golden, and I'm going to show you. This is what I mean by cracking. And this surprised me because Golden does have good binders. And I have worked with Golden paint and water before, and this hasn't happened. So this surprised me. Now, I felt over it, and this area is a little bit thicker, but it happened up here. And this area, it feels a tiny bit thick, but not much. And then up here as well, it happened. So this definitely surprised me. This interaction of the Golden and the Amsterdam paints, it did, with this gold, it did produce cracking. Now, and this is good because I'll show you kind of what I consider breaking versus cracking over here. So now for this one, the gold itself is gorgeous. And that's why I love Golden paints. They're so pigmented. And this was the heavy body acrylics that I mixed. They are so pigmented. They are beautiful paints. So again, this is nothing against Golden. And Golden actually says that you can mix your paints 50-50 with water and still be okay because of the binders that they use. But for this one, not so much. And, oh, I don't even have my sheet here. So the color, I gave it a 5. It's a gorgeous gold. Cells, no cells. So for me, you know, there would be no reason. Look at my finger. There would be no reason to use it. I got my nails done. You might have seen at the beginning of the video, I had my nails done. And let me tell you, I ruined them already. I peeled everything off. I have an artist hand. Why would I do my nails? Look at my toes. I did those too, but the paint doesn't peel off of them. So cracking and breaking, I gave it a 1, which is bad. Here's my scale up here. 0 is bad, up to 5 is good. So color is good, cells, none, cracking, not so good. I didn't give it a 0 because it didn't crack everywhere, but just if the paint is thicker in those areas, it definitely can. And that's just due to the differences in like one layer dries before the other. And so whatever is on top that's already started drying, as that bottom water tries to evaporate and come through, you'll end up getting these cracks. But it normally happens when the paint is thick. And so the drying time of the top layer and the bottom layer are different. Gosh, I'm like love bombing y'all with information here. So it's a beautiful gold. Very surprised that there was more cracking in here. Now, this is one of my favorite cell reactive paints, and it's the Creative Inspirations, and that's what I have all those big jugs of. And I have used Creative Inspirations. In the last part, I'll show you how I use it so that I don't get this reaction. But this is nice to show you what I mean by breaking. So the paint from underneath tries to come up, but it's not in these jagged formations, these like crevices. It is simply in these tiny little parts right here. This actually held together very well. So you can see the beautiful cells that are here. And I'll show you in the last part as well what I do to fix this if it's already dry this way. But see, you can see, so it's like the tiny little parts of darker paints try to come to the surface, and it creates just a little bit of breaking in the surface tension there. But overall, I still think this one is very pretty. I am going to rate it not great on the cracking and breaking by itself, but the cells and the interactions that I get, and then look at the actual, like, look at that gold. It is such a pretty gold. So for Creative Inspirations, I gave it a 4 to 5 out of the gold. It is lighter. It's not as rich of a gold, and they only have the one color gold. So that's why I didn't give it a perfect score. Like this golden gold is gorgeous. Cells, I gave it a 5, immediately reacted. Cracking and breaking, I gave it a 2 to 3, again, because it's not really cracking. It's just breaking depending on what color you use, just a tiny bit. I'll show you the next one, Pebeo, because that one happens even more. And then for my notes down here, I said it's a very, very pretty gold, but there was some cracking and breaking. Now for Pebeo, same thing. So Pebeo didn't have any of those big cracks, but you can just see the paint, it almost looks like it's kind of like disintegrated a little bit. And it's just those bottom colors trying to come through to the top. But you can see how pretty the reactions are. So I would say Creative Inspirations, the Pebeo, I think these should all kind of get either mixed with something else or mixed with a pouring medium instead of just paint and water. But the cells themselves, it is very cell reactive. So for Pebeo, the other thing, I'm really not super, like, the gold is a little bit underwhelming for me. Like, you can see the shine of, like, look at that shine. And then this one, especially in person, the camera's picking up a little bit more reflection, but it's just not, it's not that great of a gold, in my opinion, I should say. I know there's somebody out there that loves Pebeo, and I'm not dissing your paint brand, okay? All right, so not a fan of the color. Cell creation absolutely happened almost immediately. Cracking and breaking, I would give it a 3 or 4. Actually, what did I give? Cracking and breaking, I think I would give this is actually better than Pebeo. So I would say this is, I would say Creative Inspirations is the 3 to 4. No, I'm just going to give it a 3. And for cracking and breaking here, I'm going to give this, it's hard to write while I'm a 2 to 3. Because again, those portions are so big, it's almost not even noticeable in the Creative Inspirations, but you can definitely see it in the Pebeo. And I did a few years back a painting with Pebeo Blue Black, and I noticed it then. So I am pretty sure that most of the Pebeo paints it's gonna happen in this. I just added at the time a little bit of my regular pouring medium to it, and it helped that out. My Floetrol gloss medium. Just a few drops will help. But we will get to that in part 4. All right, so here, this is the Utrecht, and you can definitely see this has cracking. So again, the paints were a little bit thick here. You want to be able to find a mixture where even if the paints are a little bit thicker, it still doesn't crack or break. But I'll be honest, it happened. Like, you can see it there. You can see it there. It happened in a bunch of places. I am a little bit, again, underwhelmed. Oop, I can't get it. Underwhelmed by this gold. Like, not really shiny at all. So I think I don't really like the gold. Cell creation, it did have some cells here. It interacted with the blue, but yeah. So some cells, cell creation, meh. And then cracking and breaking, I gave this a 1 because this definitely broke. Cracked. Transparency, we already talked about. Price, we already talked about. So more cracking and not a very pretty gold. So that is this set. The golden was surprising to me. The Creative Inspirations, I know how this interacts and I know how to work with this one. So I probably am a little bit biased to this one. The Pebeo, honestly, I think it's workable. Yeah, so we'll get to that in part, I think, 4. And then Utrecht, probably wouldn't purchase again. But the golden and the Utrecht, I'm sure, for regular abstract artwork where you're not thinning them out a lot or using a pouring medium with them, I'm sure they would be fine. But for paint and water, it's a no-go for me. All right, I will see you back for part 3. We're going over 4 more golds, and then we'll get to the final part where I kind of put it all together for you. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Happy painting. Bye.